Hi guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, a while back I got a comment from an angry viewer who was pretty appalled by the way that I treat my Phalaenopsis orchids. They were pretty shocked how much I didn't care about my phals. And the main two ideas of the comments were that they were not in semi-hydroponics, they were still in my old Ceramis and leca mix, and also they were not potted in the white pots, but rather in these pretty awful looking colored pots. And well, I'll have to give it that in that comment there were two accurate things. One, my phals are still in the old medium, my Ceramis and leca mix, and also the color of the pots is appalling. Although, if I think about it, I think I'm more horrified by the color than they are. But indeed, I think I can do a little better for my Phalaenopsis orchids, at least aesthetically wise. Now, a while back I told you that the reason why these pots don't really go together with my greenhouse is because they have a cool undertone. I myself love warm colors, but also the shelf is a warm color brown. So whatever other color I would put here that is not a warm color will look awful. And that's why these look awful. I was also telling you that I cannot find white pots anymore, and for this reason I do have a ton of orchids that need repotting. I also started to purchase colored pots that I just find to work with my setup in a way, and in my eyes they do seem to have that warmer undertone to them. Mind you, I'm not an artist. I'm actually pretty awful when it comes to colors and combining stuff. I don't have necessarily that artistic eye, but I do want to elevate a little bit the greenhouse, how it looks like, and as you will see snippets from here on in my videos, I am working actively to change a little bit my greenhouse. So I decided, what the hey, I'm gonna change the pots of my orchids, and I'm also going to repot them in semi-hydroponics. Problem is, it's winter, and also most of my phals are in spike. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to redeem myself in front of my viewer, but what I will definitely do is make an informational video about repotting orchids which are in spike. And that's good enough for me, so let's start with the repot. So a little backstory before we start. I'll link you down below to a video that I made a few months ago. To the trained eye, you will notice that my Phalaenopsis orchids have been through some stress factors. And as you will see in the video that I linked to, I had major issues with my clay pots and the Phalaenopsis orchids. As the root system grew, it started to absorb more water faster, and at some point I could not keep up with watering. So I had to do something really fast and get them out of those clay pots. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna change the setup, maintain all of the medium they initially had in the clay pots, and just find some decorative containers that could hold in that moisture, because these girls, oh, they're drinkers. And that's the story of how my Phalaenopsis orchids are the way they are. I've also added a layer of leca on top to prevent algae formation, and that's the whole setup. And as you can see, now we do have spikes. But a word of warning, I'm not expecting a great show from them this year. It happens when you stress them out. They will bloom, they're gonna look pretty, but they're gonna have, I don't know, 4 to 6 flowers, which is mediocre. It's pretty much half the potential of a complex hybrid Phalaenopsis bred for exquisiteness. Let's call it like that. So since I'm not expecting much from the Phalaenopsis this year anyway, I decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and repot them. Now about repotting orchids with flower spikes. Yes, when you stress out an orchid, and PSA repotting can be stressful depending how much you disturb and you damage the root system. So depending on that, an orchid can totally abort the flower spike or drop the flowers or things of the sorts. If you have an orchid and you care a lot about that flower spike and the flowers and having it in bloom for as much as possible, do not repot it unless its life is in danger because of that medium. Maybe pests, maybe medium completely breaking down and totally damaging the roots. That's the only reason why you should repot an orchid in spike or in bloom. Phalaenopsis though, they're different. For the main part, they don't really care if you disturb the root system actually. Given they're already healthy and they have a good root system, I'm not talking about stressed phals. I don't think I've ever had a case in which a spike was aborted because I repotted it. But there is always a chance. As you can see, my orchid's life is not in danger. This medium is perfectly fine, and actually, let's see what's going on with the root system. Root system looks okay, looks nice. So actually I don't really have a reason to repot it other than I just want to give it a better looking pot and switch it to semi-hydro. Now there is another concern, that of adjusting the roots to the new medium. Well, I have to tell you guys that with all of the orchids that I transferred to semi-hydro, I never had adaptability issues, and this is because I'm already running, or I did run a hybrid of semi-hydro, but it had Ceramis, which is very, very water retentive, and practically they're already adjusted to the clay material itself and the way it changes or may alter the water and the environment, and also to the aeration versus moisture ratio that it provides. They're not 100% identical, I'm not saying that, the two setups, but if you transfer an orchid from bark to semi-hydro or even moss to semi-hydro, I'm not even gonna say mounted orchids versus semi-hydro, then yes, it will be a big difference and some roots might not adjust. But in this setup, there's really nothing to adjust. They're very, very, very similar. And Phalaenopsis orchids, as we all know, they have such a strong root system, such an adaptable root system, pretty hard to destroy the roots unless you seriously suffocate them. So I'm not even concerned about the reservoir. So the first thing that I will do is unpot this orchid and I will save the leca. It will not be thrown away because I plan to reuse it in my new pot. Given that these orchids were potted a few months ago only, they should not be very hard to remove. The root system, it didn't have enough time to grow and get really established in the pot. So let's see. And there we have it. Now, yes, when you do this, there is a chance you will damage some root tips. Root tips are always very prone to being damaged, but overall, considering the extent of the root system, you know, there's really no harm done. So at a quick glance, I don't think I damaged much. Okay, this root tip is not damaged. I thought I broke it, but no. Let me show you something super interesting. So what happens to roots that don't have space to grow? Let's say they try to grow in between two pieces of medium. Well, they're gonna squeeze in between them, become very, very thin, and look like this. This is not a broken root. It's actually a root tip that was trying to grow in between two pieces of medium, probably. And that's how it looks like. Very interesting. So at this point, I do want to remove the Ceramis from the equation because semi-hydro, the classic setup that I started to run anyway, does not include Ceramis. Now, removing Ceramis from Phalaenopsis roots is a joy because Phal roots are just so thick, and you might already notice that I did water my orchid. I did so yesterday, so I made sure that the roots are completely soaked and plump, and this makes all types of medium come off easily. But compared to something like bark chips, Ceramis just comes right off. It's a joy to work with it and Phalaenopsis. Not so much a joy to work with other orchids, other types of roots, but with Phals, there is really no drama. See that? It comes right off. And P.S. this is medium that was in the clay pot, and my orchids grew in that clay pot and in the same medium for almost 2 years already. So yeah, you can see there isn't much to detach. There's pretty much zero damage on my roots, so there is absolutely no reason for this orchid to give up her flower spike. See, that's what I was telling you, that Phals are pretty much the perfect orchid. Now, I went to the store and I actually found some good-looking pots. I also found some white pots. Doesn't happen often, but since I found them, you know, I purchased everything. So my Phals are pretty big, and their root system even bigger. So I have a varied array of sizes here, as you can see. And although not all of these colors might be warm colors, I mean, this pink by definition is not necessarily a warm color, but this shade just looks warm to me. So despite that, I forgot to add a little detail. I prefer glossy over matte. Matte, not to my liking really, because it just, I don't know, doesn't scream stylish to me. But of course, that's just my own preference. Bottom line, I hope they will look good. I'm pretty sure they will look better than what I have now. So I didn't choose a pot for my orchid yet because I did not know what mass of roots I had. I have a pretty big mass, so something like this will not be enough, I can tell you that. Something like Oh, there we go. Something like this. Now, yes, this will fit my orchid, I think, just fine. Let's go make a test. Alrighty, now the problem might actually be the height, but maybe not. Let's see. Oh no! Wow, okay, it's actually perfect. It's perfect for what I want. This orchid will sit in this pot for many years to come. Look at this. I think this is perfect. So all I need to do right now is put some holes in this pot. Alrighty, so I've gathered most of the leca in the old medium, and I also prepared some new leca, and I think this should be enough for repotting my orchid. Alrighty, so before we go ahead and repot this orchid, of course, we need to trim out whatever dead roots we have. And while we don't have many, you can see I have a dried root tip here, have another one here, you know, there is some work that can be done. And because I cannot locate my pruners right now, we're just gonna use this scissors. It doesn't look very clean, but I didn't cut any plant with it. So this will just have to do. I'm going to cut away whatever is dry. Alrighty, my orchid is pretty clean now. It's time to pot it up. P.S. I'm not going to use hydrogen peroxide on it or wash the root system or anything of the sorts. This is not a new orchid coming from a medium that I don't know anything about. I know exactly the evolution of this orchid, what happened with the medium, if I have pests in the medium, and so on. And I just saw another dried root. Okay, so I know that the medium is okay, is clean from the point of view of things we don't want in our medium. So no point in just cleaning the roots or sterilizing them. So let's see. Alrighty, looks pretty good. So all we have to do now is just put leca beads all around this orchid, and it will take a while because, as you can see, I have a lot of roots here. So making the leca go down, you know, it's not gonna be the easiest thing, so I will not bore you. I'll come back when I'm done. I might just fast forward to this bit. So my orchid is now done. She is repotted. In case you didn't notice, in the fast forward section, to make the leca go down, all you need to do is just tap a little bit on the pot, and usually it's enough to make it go down. Now, returning to the aspect of repotting orchids in spike, I can guarantee you this orchid will absolutely not lose her flower spike and will not be bothered by me repotting it. As you could see, I barely even touched the root system. There was nothing much to dislodge anyway, and whatever I had to remove, it was done very, very, very gentle. I didn't even have a broken root tip actually. No reason for this orchid to be set back, so I'm confident that the flower spike, given even if I know already that it's not going to be an impressive one, it will still develop, it will still bloom. So this is a case of a Phalaenopsis, which I will repeat, I think is the epitome of perfection when it comes to orchids. I'm not surprised. Man has worked a lot in hybridizing this orchid and obtaining what we have today. So with this orchid, I would say that repottings are, for the main part, safe if the orchid is in spike. With other orchids, though, I cannot guarantee that. The orchid that I would never repot if it has a flower spike, unless I do have very strong reasons to repot it, and these strong reasons have to do with the orchid's health. So the orchid that I would never ever even touch if it has flowers, and I do want to have the flowers, is the Cattleya orchid. So if I would go ahead and repot a Cattleya right now because I just want to change the pot and the orchid has buds, oh, I'm gonna be in for a shock. Most probably the buds will either not open, they will blast before they open, or they might open but the flowers would not last long. So under no circumstance would I touch a Cattleya orchid that is in spike or has buds or even has flowers unless I really had to. But with Phals, the chances are you will not lose the flower spike. So alrighty guys, over the next period of time I will work on my Phalaenopsis and do them a little bit of aesthetical justice. Because in all honesty, the Phals are actually pretty healthy. I'm pretty happy with how they bounced back after their serious dehydration period. I am pretty sure they will take to semi-hydro instantly, simply because of the context and also because they're Phals. So anyway, this was the video for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it and you learned something new. And you know the drill. If you did enjoy it, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!